Hello again, this is Mark Summers from Summers Technical Services. We've been working on our Mastercam, or our Solidworks parts for our project, and we're trying to get started on some toolpaths in Mastercam. So one of the advantages of having a 3D Mastercam part model is we can use this geometry, just get it into Mastercam and use this geometry to make our toolpaths. So let's see how to do that. So here's my part model in SolidWorks. I want to flip over to Mastercam, and I've got a new empty Mastercam file here. So I'm going to say File Merge. Not sure why they call it Merge, but that's what they call it. And the first thing I'll need to do is change the filter down here at the bottom. It's going to come up and say I want to open some Mastercam files, and we want to change that to SolidWorks. So use the pull down and choose SolidWorks. And then we'll browse over and find my Mastercam model, and it's this guy right here, I think. -19 is the one I happen to be working on. So we'll say open, and it's going to place it in there, and you can move it, align it, mirror it, scale it, you make copies of it, but I just want to use just have one copy. So I clicked on the little option button up here and just hit the approve button, and now I've got my part in my CAD data, my CAD model in Mastercam. The problem is if I do a right click and do ISO view, it's not in the same orientation as my SolidWorks model. When I did an ISO view of my SolidWorks model, it gives me spacebar ISO view. It gives it to me. This is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting the top plane to be that location, and the right and the front plane is going right through the middle of the part. In Mastercam, it's using a different XYZ coordinates. So this XYZ is going like this triad down here in the bottom left. If I go to Mastercam, it's got a different orientation for X, Y, and Z, so it's not the right orientation that I want. Well, there's two things you can do. You can do transform, and you can rotate it and flip it and get it in the right orientation. Or there's another set of commands under model prep, where you can modify things, and it has align to plane, align to face, and you can poke around in here to try to rotate this thing in the orientation you want. I want to do something slightly different. I want to change my planes in SolidWorks so they match what Mastercam understands as XYZ. So I want to wipe this out. I'm going to say File New, start a new empty Mastercam model, and I want to go back to SolidWorks. And I'm going to switch this orientation. So what I'm going to do is go on my very first sketch. Remember that first sketch, the plane you sketch on that first sketch defines the entire orientation of the part. So I'm going to right click on sketch 1, and instead of saying edit sketch, I'm going to say edit sketch plane. And if I change that from the top plane, I'm going to get rid of that and go find my front plane, and then say OK. It's going to make that first sketch build on the front plane instead of the top plane, and all the other subsequent features are going to take care of themselves. So now if I do an ISO view over here, it doesn't look correct in SolidWorks, but I think that's going to make it correct in Mastercam. So now I'm going to go back. I'm going to save this, File, Save As. And I don't want to save it on top of the Mastercam model because I want those Mastercam models, excuse me, I don't want to save it on top of the SolidWorks part I just opened, because I want to have a different version. I want to keep it in the orientation when I do my SolidWorks assembly, but I want to have this new orientation when I put it in Mastercam. So I'll just add a suffix at the end called Mastercam. So this version of my part is getting it ready. The geometry is all the same, it's just got a version called Mastercam. All right, now I want to go back to Mastercam, File, Merge, and go browse over and find the one I just saved, which is this guy right here, and say open. And now it's going to put it in the correct orientation, I believe. So I want to click on the button here and then just approve it. Now when I right click and do isometric view, now it's oriented the way I want. And so give that a shot, and if you want to, try these transform and model prep commands, and you can possibly reorient the model to get it in the right orientation in Mastercam without having to do this trick with SolidWorks. So it's, like usual, there's more than one way to solve these issues. So I'll leave it at that for now. In the next video, we'll talk about how to use this CAD model, this 3D CAD model, to create our wireframe for our toolpaths. So until then, have fun with Mastercam.